Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another reading vlog where I'm gonna be reading Ship of Magic. So Ship of Magic is the first book in the Liveship Traders Trilogy, which is part of the Realm of the Elderlings series, Realm of the Elderlings universe, which is like a fantasy series. And I read another trilogy in this series that is called the First Year Trilogy late last year, and I really enjoyed it, but I hear that this one is even more like wildly loved. So I was very excited to get into this and just really excited to get back into this world in general, even though I'm also a bit intimidated because the books in this trilogy are definitely a lot longer than the ones in the other trilogy. So, they're all around 900 pages. That is a lot, but yeah, very excited nonetheless. And I just want to say that this vlog has spoilers, and yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so I am on page 292 of Ship of Magic, and that is 1/3 in. And this book starts with a prologue, as many books do, and we see some creatures that are, I think, serpents, some sort of serpent, like they talk. And I don't really know what they are. But then moving on, we meet two characters in the first chapter, and one of them is a pirate, and he's called Kenneth. And we learn that he wants to become the first pirate king. And we also learn that he learns that he will succeed in his goal, which is to become the first pirate king. And we also meet a boy who was studying to become a priest. He was in a monastery, but he's told that he needs to leave, he needs to go back home because his grandfather is dying. And then we move on to meet some other characters, and we meet Althea, and she is the daughter of a captain of a ship, and that ship is called the Vivacia, something like that. And that is a live ship, and live ships are made of wizard wood, which is some sort of special magical wood. And the live ships, they can come to life, which is a process that is called the quickening. And those ships, they come to life after the death of the third person, like the third generation in a family. And Althea's father, so the captain or old captain of the ship, is dying, and he will be the third to die in that family. And we actually learned that he's also Wintrow's grandfather, the one that we knew was dying. And since he is sick, the person who has been captaining the ship has been Kyle, who is Althea's sister's husband. And he wants to, become the new captain, even though Althea is the one that is supposed to become the captain, because she is the one that is actually connected to the ship in a way. And as Althea's father is actually dying, he knows that he's about to die, he asks to be taken back to the ship, because in order for the quickening to work, he has to die on the ship. And so that happens. He does die on the ship, and the ship does come to life. Then Althea is told by her mother that the ship will actually be her sister's, and therefore Kyle's, and not hers, because they decided that that was actually the best way to do things. So Althea doesn't really have anything, and especially she doesn't have the ship that she has a connection to. And we also learned that Wintro is also kind of connected to the ship, and Kyle wants him, because he's Kyle's son, he wants him to stay on the ship and not go back to the monastery. Even though Wintro does not want to stay there, he wants to, go back to his life that he was living before he was forced to go back home, and he does not want to be on the ship. But Kyle forces him to stay there, and Althea is trying to find a way to basically get her ship back. And while that is happening, Kenneth is trying to become the first pirate king, but let's just say that pirates are not really interested in having a king. So he also wants a life ship, and he's trying to make a plan to become the king. And he is one of the guys that works for him, makes sort of a deal with him. Every time they try to take a ship, they will also save the slaves that are being taken to, basically in the course that they are. And he agrees, but he doesn't really actually save the slaves or really wants to help them. And because the other guy does want to, he is thinking that he might actually have to kill him because he is not focusing enough on Kenneth's plan as he should. And that is pretty much where I'm at, and I am very confused. I am especially very confused about the serpents because I still don't understand what they are. And I really like Althea, and I also really like Wintro, even though I haven't gotten to know him as well as Althea. But from what I got to learn about him, I really like him, and I hate everyone else. I really hate Kyle, and I really, really hate Kenneth. He is such an asshole. I mean, so is Kyle. They're in the same level of assholes. I really hate them both. And I am really enjoying it, even though it is very slow. This was almost 300 pages, which is, a full-ass book. And that's everything that has happened pretty much. Is a very, very slow moving, which is not usually my type of book, but I am really enjoying it, and I am really intrigued and invested in what's happening in both of the storylines, especially Althea, because I do like her. But Kenneth's storyline, even though I hate him, is also pretty interesting. And like I said, very confused about the serpents, but very intrigued about what they are. I really want to know. And yeah, I am having a lot of fun. It is, like I said, slower than I would want, but also this is a almost 900-page book, so I did not expect it to be fast. So yeah, I am really enjoying it, and I will read probably another third, and I'll be back here to tell you how that goes. Okay, so I am 68% into Ship of Magic, which is page 594. And one of the first things that happened in this second third was that before Wintro and Kyle and the crew sailed away on the Vivacia, Althea went to talk to Wintro because Kyle had told her that if a reputable captain would vouch for her being competent as a sailor, he would give her the Vivacia back. So she went to talk to Wintro to ask if he would vouch for her, and he said that he would. And honestly, I really like their interactions together, especially because Wintro doesn't want to be on the ship, but at the same time he has a connection to the ship, so he likes her, and he knows that the ship is connected to Althea, so the ship wants Althea, and Althea wants to be on the ship, so he knows that that would be the best resolution for literally everyone except his dad, but like who the fuck cares about Kyle, you know what I mean? So yeah, I really like their interactions, and I really like this specifically. So I am hoping we will get to see them, work together in the future. But for now, Althea goes to work on like another ship, and she is pretending to be a boy because they would not let a woman on board because they say that it's bad luck. And she is actually like on that ship is also a guy called Brashen, who was the first mate when she was working in the Vivacia, like before she quickened. So, they know each other and they are close, and they get closer. They are like, I'm not sure if romantically involved is the word, like romantically, but they're involved. And also Kyle has decided that he will start transporting slaves in the Vivacia, which no one is happy with, like the Vivacia or Wintro, most of the crew as well. And I feel like that means that they will run into Kenneth, because Kenneth is liberating the slaves for his own plans. So I feel like they will run into each other. That is probably what this is setting up. And speaking of Kenneth, he does not care about the slaves at all. But since it's helping his plan, he is liberating them. And now they are like treating him as a hero and basically like as a king. So he is getting what he wants, which, I don't like. And moving on from that, like Wintro is, on the ship with his dad, and he is struggling because, his dad sucks and he treats him like super badly. And at the same time, the crew doesn't really like him because they feel like he's just, the captain's spoiled son, who they know like he doesn't want to be there. So they don't really like him either. But then like he gets hurt and he has to actually like cut off his finger, I think. And he is actually like an icon. And he shows that, he is strong, and he kind of embarrasses his dad, which honestly I loved. And like the crew kind of starts accepting him as one of their own, not just as Kyle's son. And while he was like trying to talk to his dad and show that, he was not a coward, he is worth being there, and he should actually be able to like choose his future, like what he wants to do. And it was really sad because at the end of the conversation, it says here, Wintro knew in that instant that he would never please his father, that his father had never even desired to be pleased by him. He had only wanted to master him, and now he knew he would not. So like, I love the fact that like he knew he would not, but the rest is so sad. And I really love Wintro, and I really hate Kyle, so this made me sad. And at the same time, back in land, there is like some problems as well with Althea's family, like her mom and her sister and her niece. They're, getting in all sorts of trouble. And we know that Althea's mom, like she owes money or whatever to some other family. And if she doesn't pay, she has to like either give her daughter, but since Althea's like gone, she would have to give her granddaughter. And, her oldest daughter is not happy with having to give her daughter. And I don't know exactly what's going on, but, they're going through some issues. And then we learn something about a thing called the Rain River, because there is another live ship that has been like abandoned because he has killed his crew in the past, and so no one really wants to sail him, and he's kind of like abandoned on the shore. And now there are some people who want like the ship, like the Wizardwood, because there is like a river that is called the Rain Wild River that like no one can sail in because it's like super dangerous. And it says here, so no one can go up the Rain Wild River to trade. You can't trek up the banks either. The shores of the river are treacherous bogs. The hanging vines drip scalding acid. The sap of the plants that grow there can raise welts on a man's flesh that burn and ooze for days. Unless you have a live ship hulled with wizardwood, impervious to the hot white water of the river. Unless you have a live ship who knows from that moment it is quickened the one channel up the river. That is the true source of the Bingtown monopoly on the trade. You have to have a live ship to get in the game, and I'm offering you the chance to get one. And that ship that is like kind of abandoned is saying that that is not the only thing you need, and that you don't just need a live ship, and that is a bad idea, that is a dangerous idea. And yeah, I don't really know what's going on, but I am definitely intrigued with that. And then the last two things that happened was that like the ship Althea and Brashen are on was attacked by one of the serpents, which I'm still not entirely sure like what they are, but the ship was attacked by one, and honestly like that was a very intense fight scene, and I really enjoyed that, and they ended up like being able to, survive and escape, but that was fun. And then the very last thing that I read was that, the very last thing was a scene with Kenneth, but we don't need to talk about that. But the thing before that was Winthrop deciding to leave the Vivacia, like before his dad can, change him into someone that he doesn't want to be, and before he's like trapped in there forever, he decides to leave the Vivacia, and like the ship was honestly very sad because not only does she just like not have Althea anymore, now she doesn't have Winthrop either, who were the only two people who like had a connection with her and who she could like talk to and who she could understand and who like actually cared about her. And that was also pretty sad, but that is where I'm at. And I continue to really enjoy it. I continue to also love Althea and Winthrop, and Winthrop's POV especially was very interesting so far because he's the one that is, interacting with the live ship, which is pretty cool. And I also continue to despise Kenneth and Kyle, even though Kenneth's plotline and like his POV continues to be pretty interesting. So, even though I hate every time that he appears, I also like every time that he appears because his story is interesting. And I'm also really liking to learn more about the world and like the families of the traders and all of that. And I feel like because I'm really liking to learn about that, like that's the reason why the very extremely slow pace is not really bothering me. Even though I would still like it to be faster, this is still not my favorite pacing for a book. But having said that, like I am really enjoying it, and I am still very intrigued, very invested in everything that's happening and like in the overall plot of this book. And yeah, still having a lot of fun, and I will finish it and I will let you know what I think about it. Okay, so I have finished Ship of Magic, and we pretty much started this last third with Kenneth being like attacked by a serpent, and he was bitten in his leg, and he's not really doing great. And then we see Winthrop as I think I said that he had left the ship, and he found some people, and he actually helped like a dying slave, but then he was found by some guards and he was taken as a prisoner, and then he was made a slave himself because like no one appeared at the prison in a certain amount of days to like claim him, and so that he could be freed. And so he himself was made a slave, and he was bought as a slave by his own father. And we also see Althea, like, I also think I mentioned, I filmed my last update a while ago, so let's just say I don't really remember what I said, but I'm pretty sure I said that, like, she needs the, like, proof that she's a capable sailor so that she can have her ship back. And so she went to the captain who she was, like, working for to give her that proof. But she had to say her actual name and that she wasn't, the boy she was pretending to be. And he did not give her the ticket when he found out who she was. And so she decides that she doesn't really have any other choices. Like, she needs to just, go back home to the life that she doesn't really want. And then while she is, trying to find a way to go home, she meets another live ship who I think is called Ophelia. And Ophelia decides that she's going to help Althea and her live ship, Vivacia. And so Althea is, for now, going to be working on Ophelia, like, as herself. She's not going to be pretending to be anyone else. And that is pretty much where we ended with Althea. And before we get into like the last big thing that happened, I just want to say that the serpents, they are still looking for something, and I think it's called the one who remembers. They haven't found it, but also I'm still so confused about the serpents in general. So that's my very useless update about the serpents because I don't really understand them. But anyway, the other big thing that happened is Kenneth, like, he learned about the Vivacia and he wants a life ship. And in the Vivacia, Winter is kind of with the other slaves, but not really. And he is like talking to some of them and he helps them get free and like take control of the ship from like the sailors, like Kyle's crew. But like there is a huge fight between the two sides, and then there is also a storm which doesn't help. And while they are all like struggling in the ship, Kenneth's like his ship is approaching and they board the Vivacia and like they take over. But Kenneth is still like kind of dying because of the bite in his leg. It's like, I mean, he has lost a lot of blood obviously, but it's also infected, so he is not doing well. And Kyle, he was studying to be a priest. They didn't know like medicine, and he says that like maybe he could help Kenneth, and so Kenneth says that he will spare his life and his father's if he saves him, which, I mean, he could just kill Kyle, honestly. Like, I would be more than fine with that. But Winthrop agrees with that deal, and basically Kenneth is now like in charge, and he tells Vivacia that he wants her, and Vivacia is kind of like liking him, which I hated, but that is pretty much how the book ended. So let's just go into my final thoughts. So starting off with the characters and starting off with Althea, I thought she was a really cool character to follow, and I really liked her plot. I was very invested, and I really wanted, I mean, I really want to see her succeed because she still hasn't. She is definitely like better now because she is just being, you know, a sailor as herself, and she's in a life ship who she is liking. She obviously, it's not the connection that she has or had with the Vivacia, but you know, it's kind of a friend, and so I am happy for her, and I really want to see her succeeding in having her ship back. And I really thought when I started reading this book that she would be my favorite character, but actually my favorite character turned out to be Winthrop. Like, I really like him, and he's a badass. And I really love to see as well how he went from really not wanting to be on the Vivacia, really not wanting to have anything to do with her, to actually like care about her and want to protect her. And obviously he's still like, that's not really what he wants to do, but he cares about her and he wants to protect her. And I really like to see that, and I really love him. And I mean, I also really want him to be okay, but like I'm afraid that he won't be. And then like I absolutely hated Kyle and Kenneth. They're just such bad people, and I really hated to see Kenneth succeed. And I really hate that the Vivacia is like liking Kenneth, because I'm just like, he is horrible. There is nothing to like about him. Like, why, you know? So I'm afraid she will, you know, want him aboard her. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And speaking of the Vivacia, I, in general, really like her. She is funny, and she is also very dramatic. And I really love her connection to, I mean, we first saw it with Althea, and then we mostly saw it with Winthrop, and I really like to see that. And I also really want to know more about the other life ship, like the Paragon, the one that is kind of the mad ship. But since the next book is called The Mad Ship, I am hoping and expecting that we will learn more about him there. And yeah, I really want that. And yeah, I was really invested like the whole time in the plots and of like all the characters. Like I think I mentioned as well, even Kenneth, who I hate, I was invested in his chapters because his plot is very interesting. And so I really like to see that as well. I just didn't want him to succeed. But this is the first book, so I mean, it was, I guess, expected that he would succeed in the beginning, and I just hope to see his downfall, basically. That is what I want. And I mean, I was definitely very confused. I still am about a lot of things, but like confused in a good way. Like confused as in intrigued, like I want to know more. And the pacing of this book was definitely slower than I like. I tend to prefer faster paced books, but I really, really love the plots and I love the characters. Not, I mean, some of them I hated, but like they're very good characters. So like I love that the characters are all very good. And I also love the writing. And yeah, I had a really good time with this book and I am giving it 4 stars. So yeah, that is everything for this reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. And if you did, give it a like and subscribe. And I will talk to you next time. Bye!